she laughed. Not the kind of laugh that draws you in, warm, intimate, inviting, but the kind that shoves you off a ledge, cold and final. From the bedroom window, I watched her slip into a car I'd never seen before. She was wearing that perfume, the one she only used back when we were newly in love, the scent she'd long ago declared too much for mundane errands like grocery shopping. Yet today, she dabbed it on for him. I stood behind the curtains like a phantom, invisible, forgotten. Just 5 nights earlier, she'd told me it was just a silly little dinner. Her exact words, not mine. It's just fun, Desmond, she'd added, flashing that practiced, too bright smile. Nothing's happening. I'd never cheat on you. You know that, right? Right, that's what she said. What she didn't know was that I already knew his name. The guy from her Pilates class, the one who'd started liking her old Instagram photos from 2019, random snapshots from a time before he existed. The one who once dropped a fire emoji under a gym selfie of hers. I'd seen it all. I just pretended I hadn't. She'd sworn it was innocent. He's not even cute, she'd scoffed. But I noticed how her eyes lit up when his name popped up on her screen. I noticed how she began keeping her phone face down, shielding it like a secret. So I did something I never imagined I'd do. I started packing quietly, methodically, but only her things. No tears came. None at all. I folded her sweaters while she sat at the kitchen table, planning her fun little dinner with him. The last item I packed was the framed wedding photo on her nightstand. Her lip gloss still smudged faintly on the glass. Behind it, I left a note. No shouting, no accusations, just cold, clean facts. When she returned, everything was gone. Her bags packed, the locks changed, divorce papers waiting on the counter. She knocked first softly, then harder, then with full-throated desperation, and that's how she found out. Some promises, it turns out, carry consequences. The first thing I noticed when she came back was that she didn't have her keys. She stood on the porch like a stranger, fumbling with her phone, knocking instead of unlocking the door she once called hers. Her hair was messier than when she'd left, her lipstick worn down to ghostly smudges at the edges of her mouth. She didn't look like a wife returning home. She looked like someone tiptoeing back into a life she'd already abandoned. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark, blinds cracked just enough to see her silhouette through the frosted glass. She knocked again, louder this time. "Desmond," she called, her voice cracking. I stayed silent. When she tried the handle and found it locked, she called my phone. I let it ring. Then she saw it. I knew the exact moment her eyes landed on the envelope taped to the front door. Divorce papers sealed neatly in a plastic sleeve. Her name scrawled across the front in bold Sharpie. Beneath it, a single line I'd written hours earlier. "You said it was just for fun. So is this." The knocking stopped. Silence stretched for several long seconds. I pictured her flipping through the pages. Petition for dissolution of marriage landing. On the final page, where my signature already waited. She called again. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, I heard her at the garage door, probably assuming I'd forgotten to lock it too. I hadn't. I'd locked everything. Her passcode was erased. Her fingerprint removed from every smart lock in the house. What shook me most wasn't her anger or tears, it was her calm. Candace didn't scream. She didn't collapse. Instead, she paced. Through the side window, I watched her walk back and forth across the lawn like a child waiting for recess to end. Then she dialed someone. I couldn't hear the words, but I knew the name. It was him, the just a friend she'd sworn was harmless. Minutes later, the same silver car pulled up. He stayed in the driver's seat. She climbed in without a backward glance at the house. Not once. And just like that, she left again. But this time, I didn't wait up. I poured a glass of water, slid my wedding ring off my finger, and placed it in the center of the kitchen table. It sat there alone, just like every promise she'd ever made to protect us. The next morning, I didn't expect her back, but at exactly 8:04 a.m., the silver car rolled up again. This time, she stepped out alone. Still in the same clothes from the night before, makeup washed away, her expression hollow. She looked less like a wife and more like a woman returning to a crime scene. She didn't knock. Instead, she stood there, holding a paper coffee cup, some half-hearted peace offering. I watched from behind the curtain, unmoving, as she hesitated, then set the cup gently on the welcome mat, as if that small gesture could erase everything. "I need to talk to you, Desmond," she said softly. I stayed silent. "I know how it looks," she continued, "but nothing happened. We just had dinner. That's it." That's when I realized she truly believed I was that naive, that after reading the messages, seeing her sneak into his car, hearing her lie straight to my face, I'd still believe her because she brought lukewarm diner coffee and a gentle tone. "We didn't even kiss, right?" she added. And that's when I laughed. Not a loud, bitter laugh, just a short, dry exhale, the kind you make when reality becomes too absurd to process. Because I'd seen the photo he'd sent her, a blurry, intimate selfie of them crammed on the same side of a booth, her head resting on his shoulder, his hand resting far too low on her waist. They looked like lovers, not dinner companions. So I opened the door, but only halfway. She looked surprised, hopeful even. I handed her a folder. The divorce papers again, now notarized, with the court date highlighted in yellow. "I didn't cheat," she whispered, trying to sound shattered. I nodded slowly. "Then why did you lie about where you were going?" Her mouth opened, then closed. The silence that followed spoke louder than any excuse ever could. "I don't want to fight," she said softly. "I'm not fighting," I replied. "You already made your choice. I'm just cleaning up after it." She flinched as if I'd struck her. For a fleeting second, something flickered across her face. Shame? Panic? But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. She turned and walked back to the car. Still no tears. Still no apology. And the coffee? I left it outside. Just like her. Betrayal doesn't end when the person leaves. It echoes. It lingers in the silence between sentences, in the empty chair at dinner, in the way your phone buzzes when you're hoping it won't. That morning, it buzzed 3 times. A blocked number, a voicemail. I didn't want to listen, but curiosity is cruel. I put the phone on speaker and stood in the kitchen, staring at the untouched coffee cup she'd left the day before. The message began with heavy breathing. Great. Then a voice I recognized, but not hers. "Desmond, it's Blair." Blair, one of Candace's closest friends, the one she always called brutally honest, yet mysteriously absent whenever things got messy. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year. "I was with Candace and Everett that night," Blair continued, her voice trembling. "She told you it was just dinner, but it wasn't. I saw them. They were all over each other. I begged her not to go through with it, told her she'd regret it. But she just laughed. Said you were too soft to do anything drastic, that you'd cry for a week and then beg her to stay." I paused the voicemail. I didn't need to hear more. My hands shook. My chest tightened. Too soft. That's how she saw me. A man who'd whimper, wait, and forgive. I played the rest. "She said awful things about you, Desmond. Things I won't repeat. I'm not calling to hurt you. I'm calling because you deserve better. And because I think she's planning to come back again today." The message ended with a long pause, then a click. I stood frozen, phone in hand, realizing Candace hadn't just cheated. She'd rehearsed it. She'd predicted my reaction like I was a loyal dog who'd sit by the door until she returned. But the locks were still changed. Her name wasn't on the Wi-Fi. The spare key? Gone buried somewhere even I couldn't find. So I made coffee, not for her, for me. And I waited not as a man hoping she'd return, but as someone who knew she would, and was finally ready. I saved Blair's voicemail, closed the app, and sat with the weight of it pressing down like a sandbag. Too soft to do anything drastic. That line haunted me more than the affair itself. She didn't fear losing me. She bet I was too scared to leave. And she'd placed that bet months ago, long before Everett entered the picture. By noon, I hadn't moved. I just replayed every fake smile, every vague excuse, every gaslighting tactic in my head. Candace hadn't just stepped out on our marriage. She'd calculated exactly how much pain she thought I could endure before breaking. So I did something unplanned. I recorded Blair's full voicemail and sent it to Candace. No message, no warning, just the audio file in silence. I watched the delivered stamp appear. A minute later, it changed to read. 5 minutes passed, then 10. At 12 minutes, my phone rang. I didn't answer. At 17, she texted, "What is this? Why are you involving my friends now?" I stared at the screen, stunned. That was her reaction. Not denial, not remorse, just deflection. Then another text. "Blair doesn't know what she's talking about. She's always had a crush on you. This is pathetic." That one made me laugh. A dry, hollow sound. The last illusion shattered. She wasn't even trying to lie coherently anymore. Just thrashing in the dark, hoping to bruise my guilt. But I didn't feel guilty. For the first time in years, I felt clear, heartbroken, yes. Nauseous every time her name lit up my screen? Absolutely. But done. So I sent one final message. "If I'm so soft, why are you panicking?" She left it unread. 3 hours later, no reply. I knew what she was doing. Pacing in some hotel room, blaming Blair, rehearsing a dramatic, "I made a mistake" speech for our next conversation. But there wouldn't be a next time. She came back just after sunset. I didn't hear her car, didn't hear a knock. What I did hear was the soft thud of something landing on my hood. I stepped outside to find a sealed shoebox. No note. She stood a few feet away, arms crossed, eyes swollen. She looked like she hadn't slept since I sent the voicemail. Good. Neither had I. "What is that?" I asked, my voice flatter than I expected. She didn't answer right away, just stared, waiting for compassion. There was none. "I thought, maybe if you saw everything, you'd understand," she finally said. "I didn't plan to fall for him. I swear." The word fall gutted me. She wasn't denying it anymore. She'd skipped straight to justification, as if betrayal were some tragic accident, not a choice. "You said it was just dinner," I reminded her. "You said you'd never cheat." She looked away. It didn't mean anything at first. I stepped closer to the box. "So what's this? Evidence? Closure? A bribe?" "Everything," she whispered. "My journal, the letters, even the necklace he gave me. I wanted you to know I'm not proud of it." She was shaking. For a second, I saw the woman I once loved. Then I remembered Blair's words. How Candace had laughed about me, begging her to stay, convinced I'd break. I didn't touch the box. Instead, I walked past it, opened her car door, and tossed her spare hoodie onto the curb. "That's the last thing you left here," I said. She blinked. "That's it? What else do you want?" I asked. "A medal for returning your guilt in a shoebox?" Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't move. If I gave her an inch, she'd twist it into an invitation. I knew her too well. "You don't get to light a fire and then cry about the smoke," I said quietly. Then I walked inside, closed the door, and left the box where it lay. 20 minutes later, I looked out the window. Both the box and she were gone. 2 days passed, no calls, no texts, not even a cryptic emoji, just silence. And for the first time in weeks, my heart wasn't racing. My hands didn't shake when my phone lit up. It was like a fever had finally broken. Until the restaurant called. Just after 6 p.m., an unknown number rang. I almost didn't answer, but when I did, a cheerful hostess said, "Hi, Mr. Luring. Just confirming your reservation for 2 tonight at 7:30. Window seat, as requested." I nearly dropped the phone. I hadn't made any reservation. I hadn't been to that place in over a year. It was our spot, the place we celebrated anniversaries, where she once toasted to forever while texting someone else under the table. "There's been a mistake," I said. "No, it was booked under your name," the hostess replied, still chipper. "Candace Luring made the reservation. She said it was a special reconciliation dinner." I hung up without another word. My first instinct was to ignore it, to let her sit alone in that booth, lost in her fantasy. But something shifted inside me. Not anger, not curiosity, just resolve. I needed to see it for myself. to watch the face of someone who burned everything down and still thought she could sweep the ashes under the rug. At 7:30 p.m., I walked in. The host greeted me like I belonged, led me to the corner booth, white candles, 2 glasses of wine already poured. She was already there, wearing the blue dress I once told her made her look like midnight. Her smile flickered when she saw me. I wasn't sure you'd come. I sat, but didn't touch the wine. You booked this under my name. I thought, if it wasn't coming from me, you might show. This isn't a romantic movie, I said. There's no speech that undoes what you did. I'm not trying to undo it, she whispered. I just wanted to explain without yelling, without texts. Just us. I leaned back. There is no us. Her hands trembled as she pushed a folded note across the table. Please, just read this later. That's all I'm asking. I stared at it. Didn't touch it. You had months to say whatever's in there. You just never thought I'd walk away first. She blinked fast, fighting tears. I stood. Enjoy the wine. This time, you can toast yourself. I left her sitting there alone, just like I'd been for years. I never opened the letter. I kept it in my glove box for a week, thinking maybe I'd need closure spelled out in ink. But the truth was, I'd already found it, not in her words, but in my own silence, in every decision I made without hesitation, in every message I didn't reply to, in every lock I changed and never reset. That was closure. That was peace. A few weeks later, I moved out of the house, not because I had to, I owned it, but because every wall echoed with whispered 2 a.m. confessions I'd made while she was out running late. Every floorboard groaned under the weight of conversations that never truly ended. So I started fresh. New apartment, new furniture, no shoeboxes, no wine glasses waiting to be filled. Just me. And it felt good. Blair and I kept in touch. Funny enough, she was the only one who never lied to me through this mess. One night over coffee, she looked at me and said, "You know what your real mistake was? You thought being kind made you weak." That stuck with me. I used to hate how deeply I felt, how I overanalyzed everything, cried alone in my car, reread old texts, searching for a version of her that never existed. But now I realize feeling deeply isn't a flaw. It's a compass. It let me walk away when others would have stayed. It let me rebuild with honesty instead of pride. Candace tried calling one last time. I blocked the number. And the shoebox? I finally opened it. Inside, photos, letters, the necklace he gave her, and on top, a sticky note with 2 words. Please remember. I smiled, tossed the whole box into a donation bin, and whispered to myself, I already did. That's the end of my story. But now I want to hear from you. What moment hit you hardest? Was it the voicemail, the shoebox, the restaurant scene? Tell us in the comments below.